Test.
What's that? You even got the bouncing square.
Put it in the middle where you're talking.
Are you trying to take me out for GQ?
Up a little bit.
Check. Test. There you go.
Try it again.
Wet.
Get your hairdo and the
Yes.
tight suit.
Okay.
Tight suit.
How's she doing, Brandon?
Eric, hello? Ooh. Whew. All right.
All right.
I think I got yours. Does it? Mine's real loud. Test.
I can hear.
Test.
I can hear.
You got yours going, all right.
Yeah.
He's good.
Talk forward.
He's been doing this for years, you know.
Clint, Scoville, can you hear me back there? See?
All right. I don't want any complaints about the mics.
Yeah. I don't either. Hey, I saw somebody digging last night at the bottom of North Royal Tower before it comes up the hill.
Yeah.
Church. I guess you don't know anything about it. I was just curious. If you
It's pretty good.
Where were they digging?
I think
It's real good, actually.
Okay, they've been working down there.
they've been doing a lot of it.
Culture.
They got a lot of work to do.
All right.
Let me go on silent here. We got 3 minutes.
Hot dog for a cause.
That's right up your alley. Hot dog for a cause.
I know about hot dogs.
Testing 1, 2.
Buying votes with hot dogs, right? I buy votes with hot dogs.
What's happening with this standardization tax thing? Is that gonna? That's not going anywhere, is it? The tax thing. I saw that. It looks like they've added a couple of co-sponsors, but
What are you talking about? That?
the tax thing.
Yeah. They claim it's not gonna pass, but every time I see something, it's getting closer and closer.
Tell me. Yeah. That is always.
And what I don't understand is why is the municipal association supporting that thing? You know.
Mr. Mayor, it's 7 o'clock.
Thank you. I'd like to call the February 18th, 2020 meeting to order. Welcome to the town of Irmo. I would like to remind you that our meetings are being broadcast live on YouTube, and the town Facebook page, and the town website. So when you come to the microphone, please speak clearly and soft and succinctly. You'll have a 3-minute time limit to talk. Do you have the sheet for sign-up sheet, sir? I'd like to call to order the meeting, and I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, an invocation being led by me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a few minutes to pray for town of Casey and the little girl, Faye Swetnick. I pray that that never happens in our town, but if it does, I know that we will rally around our law enforcement, our police officers, and our first responders to see a positive outcome to stuff like that. I don't know what's in the hearts and minds of men and women, but whatever it is, may the Lord correct their thoughts and their minds and bring back the feeling of togetherness in this town, in our town, in all the towns in South Carolina. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you, sir. I'd like to have the reading of the minutes. You all have gotten electronic copies. The council has gotten electronic copies. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, do I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion for approval.
Mr. Kelly made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Sickinger, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Report of standing committees. Administrative briefing. You all have seen Mr. Brown's administrative briefing. Is there anything else you want to add, Mr. Brown?
No, sir, nothing at this time.
I can't hear you, sir. Can you?
No, sir, I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Is there anything that you want to add from Mr. Brown's briefing? Anybody?
I have the new in-town businesses this month.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay.
None? Okay. Mr. Sickinger, we have some new in-town businesses. You want to let us know about them?
Yeah. So again, this is what we do to give back a little bit to the individuals who are opening businesses in the town and getting a license with us. Anything goes. HVAC design services, Initially Yours, and Serenity Therapeutic Massage.
And that's as of last month, right?
Correct.
Excuse me.
7001 St. Andrews Road, is that the old Winn-Dixie Shopping Center? Okay, I don't know. 7001 St. Andrews, is that Winn-Dixie? Okay, good. Got it.
Okay. That's it. We have a new in-town business, Stars and Strikes, but they're not open yet.
They're not open yet.
But I got to look at inside a sneak preview.
Oh,
Oh my.
or they're going to have bumper cars.
Yeah. Bumping cars, bowling alleys.
There's one in Marietta
Restaurants.
where my grandchildren have
I
birthday
can't-
parties.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy it as, okay. My grandson has birthday parties at one like that in Marietta. I've been to 2. I have as good a time as the children. Because it's very entertaining. It's a bowling alley plus all these games and food, and I mean, it's really neat. I'm happy it's coming, very happy.
Well, Eric, I can't wait till you announce their opening in Irmo in a couple of weeks, I understand.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming,
Maybe by the next council meeting.
for sure.
That'll be great. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Is there any consideration of communications? Mr. Bush. See
President.
one?
Yes, sir, we have Mr. Dillard here.
All right.
No, oh, we haven't? Okay, presentation of Mr. John Dillard, Senior Vice President of CSX, coming up to the microphone, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Happy to be here. Again, my name is John Dillard. I work for CSX, based here in Columbia in our state relations public affairs shop. So it's my job to interact with state and local governments in the Carolinas, but certainly here in South Carolina as well. And I've worked on many issues in Irmo throughout my time at CSX. So happy to be here and have enjoyed the cooperation on any number of issues that we've had as a company and as a town, whether that be working with law enforcement or just the town staff on a number of things that come up. Certainly we have a big presence in the town, and it's felt often. We understand that. So we want to make sure we're communicating as best we can, and particularly for myself, want to be available to you to answer questions as they arise and to help understand a little bit about how we approach things. I first started talking with Mr. Brown, the town manager. We've worked together for a number of years, but most recently about the condition of some of the crossings here in town, most particularly out at Royal Tower. And so certainly aware of that. We do, I had shared with him recently that we do have that crossing and several others scheduled for repair within the next 6 months, hopefully sooner, but that schedule is a bit fluid, but we're certainly going to work together with you to make sure you're aware well in advance, and work with you on detour routes and closures and everything. And the way that process works is we have a team that works around our 23 state network that travels all around rebuilding crossings, but also repairing and replacing the rail as needed. So in addition to the surface of the crossing, which will be repaired, they will look at, is it time for the rail to be replaced? And generally we're replacing rail every 5 to 6 years. And then with that will come a complete rebuild of the crossing, which will also include the paving of the approaches. And I know there's some question, particularly at Royal Tower, about the grade and the difference in the grade. And so I'll be talking with our engineering staff as well about what we can maybe do as we're as part of that process to maybe impact that some as well. So typically we do have engineering staff that's based here locally. Of course, we've got a yard and an operation over in Casey. Those folks have, from our engineering side, have staff and others that work with them on day-to-day maintaining the railroad, making sure that the rails are safe for trains to operate. And then they also deal with the conditions of the crossings. But typically these big overhaul projects where we're replacing everything from the ties to the rail to the approaches, that happens, again, every 5 to 6 years. And we have these teams that come through with a lot of resources and a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment that we just don't keep locally day to day. And so that usually allows us to really fully rebuild those crossings and hopefully get in and out as quickly, as safely as possible, and then don't have to go through something like that for another 5 to 6 years, depending on the wear and tear. There are certainly times where emergencies happen and other things. We need to come in and make repairs to the rails, and those rails are inspected every week per federal regulatory standards and safety standards to make sure that trains are operating over those safely at the desired speed. So as Mr. Brown and I were talking about what entails the crossing process and how we approach that and how we repair, I just wanted to make sure that we were communicating that to you all as well, and certainly happy to answer any questions about that process or other issues pertaining to CSX.
Questions? I just have a question. So once the work gets underway, will you coordinate with the town as far as the time of days and if there are, be able to minimize road closings?
Yes.
And some things like that? Okay.
Generally what we do is we have a third-party firm that works with us to handle that, and what we do is we coordinate with everyone from the town to the school districts to emergency response to law enforcement to make sure everyone's aware. We typically like to start first thing in the morning and hopefully be through, depending on the crossing and the weather and all of that, a day or 2 or 3 at the most, and then get the crossing in and then get everything paved. And again, sometimes the weather can mean it may last a day or 2 longer than we originally wanted. And also some of these crossings, it's a little bit like doing some repair work at your house. When you get into it, you realize there's something else there that needs to be repaired that you didn't quite anticipate. But our goal throughout that process is to communicate clearly and openly from the beginning to the end so that exactly, and far enough in advance, so that we don't want to show up the day before and say, we're going to close this crossing tomorrow for 3 days. We want to make sure that you have enough time, as well as those other entities and stakeholders have enough time to get that message out to constituents and others that are using their services to understand that there's going to be a little bit of a delay, but hopefully in the end, everyone will be better off.
One other question, and that is, will you coordinate with the county? Because like some of these crossings, I'm not sure how far you all get into the apron part of it.
Right.
But if there's anything that needs to be done from the county's perspective to try to make that a better crossing or intersection.
Sure. Yes, we try to coordinate with, the town, the county, and SCDOT where necessary. But on that specific one at Royal Tower, I'll take a look at that one specifically and ask our engineering folks sort of what they have in mind, and if there's other agencies we need to engage with, we certainly will.
Yeah, I think it's important if we take the intersection out of service to do that work, that the railroad track isn't perfect, and then the rest of it's horrible.
Right.
So.
And certainly we will have a plan, and we'll just want to make sure that plan aligns with your thinking and with others thinking about what needs to be done.
All right, thanks.
And I got one other comment. You said it's going to take about 6 months to get this.
It's scheduled the work is scheduled to start on that crossing probably within the second quarter of this year. And I know that's a broad time frame, but as these system teams work, they'll come into the state and work their way across the system. And sometimes the work goes quicker than they think, and sometimes they get held up. So it's a broad time frame, but as we get closer, to that second quarter, I think we'll be able to narrow that down some, and we'll certainly communicate clearly with staff and others about when we expect that to be. The best I can give you right now as a time frame is that by June we expect that work to be started and complete.
Well, that's great. It's been like that for a while, right, Mr. Bush?
Right.
So we can expect to see something by June, August. I think that's
Excellent.
not unreasonable, don't you think so?
I think there's a lot of people in town that are really excited about that.
Okay.
Understood. And again, we'll continue to communicate through the process so that you have a clear understanding of where we are and when you can expect the work to begin.
And we thank you for your coming in and sharing with us very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, presentation from the Just Leadership USA, Mr. Young and Ms. McSwain. You want to come up, or is somebody you going to solo tonight?
Yeah, I have some handouts for.
Give it to Mr. Brown there. He can. Whip.
So how many do you need? Okay, cool.
Explain to us what Just Leadership USA is all about.
Okay, my name is Lester Young, and I'm the statewide organizer for Just Leadership USA. It's an organization based out of New York that we focus on addressing what is called the criminal justice reform issues. And one of those issues that I'm speaking about here in South Carolina as an organizer is around Ban the Box, which is what we considered collateral consequences attached to a person's felony conviction. We know that 1 in 3 South Carolinians here have a felony conviction. A felony conviction could be one serving prison time or one made a plea deal in the courts and have a felony conviction. And because of this felony conviction, now a person has to live his life moving in the process of redemption and second chance. They have to live their life with a felony conviction that is attached to it. And this felony conviction prevents individuals from gainful employment, housing, education, occupational licensing, and it goes on. So what our goal here in South Carolina as an organizer is to speak to city council and county council about the issue of removing the question, have you been convicted of a felony? And that is called Ban the Box. And what we're saying is removing it off of the application. We're not saying never do a background check on the individuals who are applying for a job or whatever that case may be. We're saying most people who apply for employment and who have a felony conviction, in most cases, they never get an interview. They apply for a job, and immediately they are discriminated against, not because they don't have the work skills that is needed for that particular job. It's just based upon their felony conviction. And I speak from a personal experience because I'm also a person who have a felony conviction. And I've been, when I first came home from prison, I remember applying many times for jobs, and it got to a point where some companies now that once you check the box online, the computer's completely shut down, and it tells you that you do not fit the criteria for this particular job. Not that I'm not a person that has the job skills for it, but because of a felony conviction. So I advocate and I advocate to city and county council to pass a bill for us Ban the Box, and that is basically removing that offering an application, allowing a person to present themselves through the job hiring process based upon the hiring letter to that individual, that now a company can see this person has the skill set, fits the synergy of this particular job culture or the work culture, and then they can do the background check. And once the background check comes back and this person does not put the community in danger by no means, then that person should be hired, basically. And we have, and I close with this, in South Carolina, we see at the State House, we see on I-26, I-20, we see SCDC prison vans and individuals who are incarcerated walking the sides of the streets with the different color uniforms on, picking litter up, right? But these individuals, when they return home from prison and they apply for that same job, they're unable to get that job picking litter, but they did it in prison, or they worked at the State House dealing with landscaping and they're unable to get a job. So this is what we're asking, is give individuals who have felony convictions an opportunity for employment, because it changed the whole economic structure of that family, the community, and the society when you give people gainful employment after their mix up or mistake that they made at some age in their lives. Any questions?
I'll start.
We totally understand what you're saying, or I do, I can speak for myself.
I appreciate it.
Now, we don't have a box per se on our applications for
Yes.
employment. So this versus a resolution versus an ordinance, can you explain to us what the difference is, or
Yes,
what
sir.
the difference is?
Yes, looks like most counties here in South Carolina, city councils, they have not on the application the question, have you been convicted of a felony? But soon as that application is submitted, they still do a background check, the first phase of it. And this person, in most cases, never get into an interview. So what we're asking is to pass an ordinance, meaning what makes it law that the background check would not be implemented until the second phase of the hiring process, where you have given that person a hiring letter, you see that this person fits all of the other criteria for it, now you do a background check. And that's basically what it is. It's like the city of Columbia initially had a resolution in place, and just of August the 19th of this last year, they actually passed an ordinance, which now makes it a law of the city of Columbia, just like we're asking the city of Irmo that when Mayor Barry leaves, or whoever that next mayor is, that what would continue to be a law. What you have in place right now is that any mayor could come, or any city councilman can pass a bill to say that we want this to be added to an application now, and it could be an ordinance, is that it would be a law that now Irmo will be considered a county, or a county that was now a second chance county, where we will hire those who have felony convictions. If again, it does not put the community at danger by no means, excuse me.
Now, you realize when they apply to be a police officer, they do background checks.
Yes.
And
Just like I know,
somebody with a felony conviction, if I'm not correct, am I incorrect, Chief or Captain? Somebody with a felony conviction won't be able to be employed as a police. Right. So hook the mic up there.
They will not be employed with us if they commit a felony.
Okay, and if somebody applied to work for Public Works, I'm sorry? Okay, so it's not an issue with Public Works. It is an issue with the police department. You understand that?
yes, we understand that, because with a felony conviction, you still have federal mandate that you're unable to carry a weapon, and that's part of the criteria of being an officer of the. So we understand that part of it. But like you said, with your particular position or department, it's not a requirement to carry a weapon. So that person could be hired if he has the skill set that is needed for this particular move to be able to fulfill this particular job position. Right. Most people, as I said, 60% of those who return home from prison or have a felony conviction of some sort, 60% of them go unemployed for approximately 7 to 8 months before they get employed. So we say that as Just Leadership organization, we say that ban the box it makes sense economically. It makes sense to create safer communities, because the more people we provide job opportunities to, the more now we're creating safer communities. When you're denying people this opportunity for employment, then you're denying them access to health care, taking care of food, the basic necessities that now they are forced, and I'm not making an excuse, but it forces people to continue this particular behavior. We have to look at it that we are a state that represents second chance, a God that speaks about second chance. So all we asking is that each city council across South Carolina, take the approach of a second chance, give people an opportunity for employment, and let them be judged based upon what they bring, not the mistakes that they made 20 years ago, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago.
It makes sense to me that if you're looking to reduce recidivism, that you should allow those people who are felons to work,
Yes.
because then they'll have money,
Mhm.
and then they can eat, and they have a house, or they have rent, they can afford to live.
Agreed.
And so you're asking that we change our resolution to an ordinance to push back the background checks at a later stage in the interview?
Yes, in the later stage of the game. Yes, in the later stage of the job appliance, but also make it actually a law for Irmo, for the city council. This will be something that will be put in place that when we are all dead and gone or moved on in our other chapters of life, this will still be something that we can say that we added something, we made history by changing the narrative and how we treat people with felony convictions.
And the intention there is that you give someone a chance to be the individual applying for a job,
Yes.
and not just kicked out or ruled out because they're a felon in their history.
Exactly. It's like I just said, I'm a person that committed a crime when I was 19 years old. If I would never told you about who I was in the past, you would never know that I'm standing here as a person who has a felony conviction.
Right? Thank you.
One other question, just for clarification, that would apply to the town's employment.
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Connor?
Can you vote?
Because I have my charge, I'm not able to vote right now. But those who have on probation or parole, after they complete the probation or parole, they're able to vote. And this is another part of our initiative, is that we inform those who have these particular past experiences, that if you're no longer on probation or parole, that you should utilize your right as a citizen is to vote. And going back again, if I'm able to vote, I should be able to be employed as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, well, thank you. I think we need to adopt this or have this on the agenda for consideration. Mr. Brown, you have a copy of this? Yes, sir. Okay, would you look at that ordinance that they have as a draft on there? Mr. Moore, do you have any comments about this?
How you have your application form as a policy decision for the town.
Great.
For the town council to decide.
Well, I think I'm speaking for unanimously for the entire council. I think thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you guys for
That,
allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. We'll put it on our future agenda. I'm not sure if the next one, but we're going to draft that ordinance that you gave us
Okay.
and adopt it, and you'll know about it because we'll like to have you here for the third reading.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed night. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Is there any other communications of communication?
Yes.
Well,
I have,
yeah, you got that, and you got somebody at the podium too, but
oh, we have somebody else to come up as well?
she wants to.
Oh, okay, sure.
No, not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
Have a seat. We'll call you right for that. Sorry, I thought it was communication. My bad. Mr. Sickinger, you have any other
Yeah.
consideration in communications?
So there was an individual here in Irmo whose daughter had a pretty severe car accident, and she is physically okay generally, but caused a lot of financial strain. And so they're holding a fundraiser, Hot Dogs for a Cause, Sunday, February 23rd, for the family of Jada Powell, from 1 to 3 p.m. at 7522 Irmo Drive. Hot dog, chips, and drink, $5. All proceeds will go to Lana's medical bills and car replacement.
Cool. Any other consideration in communications?
Is that this Sunday?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Seeing none. At this point in our meeting, it's a presentation by citizens on agenda items only. It is not a debate. I ask that you be respectful to the council. Call us by our respective titles. If you have any questions that you want answered, please submit those questions to Mr. Brown, and we will definitely get back to you. And since you are at the podium first, Ms. Pat Witt, if you would give us your name and address. for the record.
Yes, I'm Pat Witt. I live at 213 Minehead Road. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Barry Walker and Honorable Council members. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity to speak briefly. I want to get some clarification from the gentleman that spoke about the repair of the railroad tracks. I thought that one of the issues was the big pothole there. Can't the pothole be fixed now? Or is there a dual problem with the rails that are there? Because I'm in Richland County, I'm retired, so I'm out and about all the time. And whenever I see a pothole, I get right on the Richland County website and I put in an application request. Do you know they
Ms.
come
Witt,
out?
I hate to interrupt you, but is this an agenda item?
Yeah, it is.
It's on the CF.
7A, CSX presentation. The gentleman that spoke about the disarray to the.
Oh, okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Brown? Am I correct?
You are.
May I speak, Honorable Barry?
You are correct.
Okay, but can't we do something about the pothole? Is that in Richland County? I don't mind calling, but I think 6 months out for that pothole, it's pretty bad. I got a nice car, and a lot of people have a nice car, and I've been looking online and seeing that quite a few have been damaged. I don't mind calling. Like I say, I'm kind of like the reporter of the neighborhood. I'm the do-gooder. If I see something, I'm not afraid to call. If I see somebody's trash out there that needs help, I don't mind calling. But 6 months for a pothole, that's unacceptable.
It's not the pothole, it's the railroad crossing.
But there is a nasty pothole there too, right,
Yes,
Mr.
there is.
Signature? Yes, so you want me to call tomorrow about that and see if I can get it fixed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But
I
also,
I don't mind helping, and I won't charge a thing.
I don't know if this is inappropriate, but the CSX guy's just getting ready to walk out the back door if you want to snag him.
That's why he's going. I'm harmless as a fly, but I'm telling you that the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Sure.
And all you got to do is find all this stuff on Google, and I'm a computer whiz, and I don't mind saying that I go on there, and like I've got renters next door, and they've got some big furniture out at the road. So instead of going over and getting them mad, thinking I'm trying to be bossy about having a pickup from Tyler's, I just called and said I'm a neighbor and these people are renters, and can you please come next Monday and pick up their couch they got out there. So, but I'm a do-gooder and I try to keep Friars Gate clean. So that's all I'm saying, that I've had good luck with the DOT by just filling out that application right online when there's a pothole or any other issue you have.
All right.
So I just want to let y'all know.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should put her to work. Point of inquiry.
Roads Commission. Go ahead.
I believe Witt told me that that he's on that pothole.
So the reason the CSX,
I filled it personally this morning at 8 o'clock.
See, that's how quick we are, Miss Witt. We filled it this morning.
The pothole. I don't know.
All right.
I'll drive by and verify if it's
Yeah.
still there or not.
We'll do a live stream.
Live stream it from the pothole. Mr. Lester Young. Mr. Lester Young? Lester Young or Lester Jones?
That was the guy
There's
that
Lester
spoke.
Young on here.
Yeah, his name is Young.
Are you here?
That was Just Leadership USA.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Miss Barb Waldman.
Good evening, Mayor Walker and council members. I'm Barb Waldman, 900 Shadowleaf Court. I just wanted to comment on new business item C. And this is really just a comment. I have no problem with this approval request. But as I was looking at this, it immediately flagged some questions in my mind. Why, at this time, are you looking to purchase these new trucks? Is this part of the regular budget, or is this something in addition, a special expense outside the budget? And as I was looking down through the supporting documents, I was hoping I would get to a little memorandum or something that addressed that particular item. And I just think that that would be useful information to include in the agenda packet so that when people see something like this, there's a little more explanation, so they don't start wondering, why are they spending so much money on these trucks? Why do they need, I just think it would be useful to have a little more information provided with the agenda. Thank you.
Where'd you see that at? The agenda packet?
10C.
No, where'd you see the information that you said?
No, there isn't any additional information. I mean, there's just the one sentence about the selling price underneath the item, but I was scrolling down through all the other documents that are included after the agenda, and I was hoping to see something that would address why this particular purchase was being asked for at this particular time.
I will ask that question when we get down to that of the chief, and you'll have an answer tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Miss Allison Hewitt. Miss Allison Hewitt? Oh, that's y'all, okay. All right. We're gonna meet y'all in the executive session. Mr. Mike Ward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing us to get up and talk to you tonight. I love the presentation by citizens portion because it gives us that wonderful opportunity to share our thoughts with you in a public format. I want to specifically talk about 3 agenda items. The first is 7B. Mr. Lester Young came up and gave a good presentation on the Ban the Box movement. I've watched Mr. Young through Facebook, and I know him personally. He has a lot of passion for what he speaks about. And I think you heard that come across tonight. And I agree with his fight. If you noticed his shirt said, "I am a human." And I think that is ultimately their goal, is for us to look at previously convicted felons as humans and what they can do first, and then consider their past crimes to see if what they have been convicted of and what they have served time for is actually going to have a negative impact when they go to operate their jobs. Also, new business 10C, I agree with Mrs. Waldman that came up here. I would love to see some additional information when the agenda states that they are looking for approval for a $110,000 purchase. I am completely in support of the police department, especially when it comes to having the right tools to do the job, but some sort of supporting documentation to help the citizens understand why that's being asked. And then I have 2 points to make on new business item 10B. One, as I read through Resolution 20-02, I noticed that this is only going to apply to the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, and the Okerstruck Commission. I think it's very critical that this includes the citizens committees, because what the citizens committees do for our town reflects on the image of our town. So if those leaders are going to be called leaders in the town, and they're going to be doing things online as the resolution is trying to correct, I think they should be included. And second, I would hope that some additional language may be added to this resolution so that it will be effective moving forward and not be allowed to be used retroactively to remove somebody from a current position because of something they have previously said on social media or a personal blog. Thank y'all, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else that has not signed up, they'd like to speak? Seeing none, let's continue with the agenda then. Unfinished business A, third and final reading of ordinance 2002. This is the ordinance dealing with properties, commercial properties. So I hear a motion for third reading.
Make a motion.
Mr. Kelly made third motion. Mr. Seconded. I think he did. Did you?
Second.
There you go. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready to vote? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Third and final reading of ordinance 2004 to rezone a portion of Muskrat Road, that little piece. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
Mr. Sickinger motion.
I'd like to second that.
Mr. Kelly seconded. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Second reading of ordinance 2005, Lexington County map, annexing in Lexington County map TMS 001998-05-10, 7582 Irmo Drive, single family residential. Is there a motion for second reading?
I so move.
Mr. Kelly moves. Mr. Kelly motioned. I'll second it since it's my ordinance. Any discussion? This is contiguous to Irmo proper. The guy wants to be a member of our great community, and I think we ought to bring him in and oblige him.
I agree.
Agreed.
Ready? All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. New business, first reading of ordinance 2007 to rezone Richland County TMS map from 7425 Broad River Road from general commercial to single-family residential. Is there a motion for first reading?
I make a motion to read.
Mr. Kelly made motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bush, Mr.
Sickinger.
Sickinger seconded. Thank you. Okay, is there any conversation? Mr. Bush? I can have some input here, won't you?
Give some input.
How about you?
I'd like some background.
All right.
I mean, to me, well, yeah, let me
give you what I know.
Yeah.
This gentleman lives in that house that's on that property, and right now it's zoned general commercial. As you can see, it's surrounded by general commercial. His problem is that he's being charged at the 6% tax rate. He wants to get since he lives there, it's his personal, what he tells me is his personal residence, his primary residence. He wants to be taxed at the 4% rate, and that's county, okay? In order to do that, he thought he needed to come to council and ask to be downzoned from general commercial to general residential, single-family residential. Well, in reality, he doesn't need to do that. Remember, we passed an ordinance that says you can have 4 residential properties in general commercial per acre. He certainly has 1, so he qualifies under that. He also has certain things he has to do to the county in order to qualify for that, which is he has to have a valid South Carolina driver's license with his address on it. He has to show them their social security card. He has to have a vehicle registration with that location on it as his vehicle. He has to have a voter registration card, and if he doesn't have a voter registration card, he has to show the most current federal and state tax returns or all schedules showing that he lives at that address. If he would do those things to the county, Richland County, they would grant him the 4% taxation rate.
So
he does live there.
So he's just basically been taxed at the
6%.
non-primary residence.
At the commercial rate.
Right.
Right.
But if he brings the proof forward that he is a resident, they'll reduce it to 4%.
Right.
Correct. The county will. Right. That's the route he should take.
I agree.
I'm not in favor of rezoning that piece of land to be residential
Kinda
because
inconsistent
I feel like
with the area.
7 years from now I'm going to be, well, I won't be here, but someone else, the next council will be
Putting it
putting
back.
it back.
Why won't he do that?
I believe he tried to do it on his own and got some pushback from people at the Richland County Assessor's Office. Well, I happened to be downtown today, and I stopped by the assessor's office and asked that question. And they told me, yeah, he could do that. He could go there and fulfill these obligations, and they would change the zoning, his billing zoning from general commercial to single-family residential.
That's what he ought to do.
Well, I hope, well, I was hoping that town would contact this gentleman and he would withdraw this motion. Did we do that? Is he here?
We did.
Oh,
And he's
good.
here, and he didn't want to
Come-
withdraw it. He wants to talk to council. But
All right, well,
go ahead. I
Mr.
also
Mim.
talked to Richland County.
I,
Our zoning doesn't mean anything.
I'm asking Mr. Mims to come forward because
Okay.
you heard the conversation. Come forward, Mr. Mims. You heard the conversation. Yes, sir. And to my best ability, I think that, I mean, those are the things you're gonna have to do in order to get what you want. If we do what you want us to do now, it's not gonna be contiguous to what's around you, to downzone it. You understand?
I do understand what you're saying.
And then if you were to sell that property, God forbid if you pass and you sell that property or you decide to move out and go somewhere else and you want to sell that property as a premium, they're going to come back to us and ask us to rezone it back to commercial
Okay, well,
if we change the zoning for you. But you can accomplish what you want to accomplish by going to Richland County and provide those documents that I mentioned. And I can give you a copy of this if you like.
okay, I did previously go to Richland County, and they stated that this was the municipality that changed the zoning.
We are.
Okay, and they, I don't know if you have these, I gave Vi a copy of the two proposals that showed how my taxes would change if it were to be zoned from general commercial to RS.
I saw that.
Okay, you did. And I do see a change in where it would bring the assessment down, but under there is a mileage rate that is quite different also.
Yeah, all that will change under residential as opposed to GC. And also your value of your property will change also. They're assessing it right now at 3-something.
320.
Yeah, it will be assessed at a lower value because it's residential, which you don't care. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think you
spend
care.
the rest of my life there. You know,
Right.
I grew up next door. I saw the building being built, and
Right.
so it's quite personal to me.
And I understand.
Yes, and
Like,
but I'm willing to do whatever.
So I think we'll
willing
figure out a way
with the council.
to get it right.
so do you want to pass first reading and let him do that, or do you want
Yeah,
to
let's-
withdraw it? I think we need to pass the first reading and let him try to do it, then he
They
can
should
come
not
back and
be
withdraw
giving-
it.
They should not be giving him a hard time. If
Well, I agree. And
Yeah, I understand it's at the county.
Yeah, I went there. And
Mr.
for that
Mims?
purpose, and then they directed me, back to
Yeah.
the city of Irmo.
I have a card here from the assessor's office, and I want to give this to you at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
This is a lady I spoke to today who assured me that if you did those qualifying things that I mentioned, that you should have no problem of getting your zoning changed from GC to residential billing, okay,
Okay.
For the tax purpose.
for tax purposes.
All right.
And you
Okay.
could leave it, you can leave it as general commercial as far as we're concerned for any future development or future growth in that area, which I think will be more
It's more compatible.
Yeah.
More compatible with us.
Compatible with that area.
But that's your home. I don't blame you for wanting to live there.
absolutely.
One way or another, it'll get right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're gonna pass. Well, I'm gonna give you this card at the end of the meeting, okay?
All right.
And if she gives you any stuff, you come give us a call. Give me a call.
Certainly will.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Everybody cool with that? Everybody understand what's going on? I think we need to pass first reading. Let him do what he has to do, and by the time second reading comes up in March, he should have it resolved. We can either withdraw it. You can call us back and say, we got it fixed. We can withdraw it, and then it'll be solved.
Okay.
All right? Any more conversation? I make a motion then, well, I got a first and a second. All in favor of passing first reading, say aye.
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 Okay. All opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. All right. New business. Item B, approval of resolution 2002. That's regarding our social media policy. Mr. Bush,
Did
I
make,
guess it's under me. I don't
make a motion?
Mr. Bush made a motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
Second. Mr. Sickinger, second. Is there any discussion?
Sure. I think generally it makes sense that people who are in a position of authority or power or in some way represent the town officially have some sort of guidelines, some ramps, right? You can go anywhere in here, but just don't go too far over here or too far over here. The goal is that we provide some general guidance around that, in my opinion. I don't understand to Mr. Ward's concern. I'm not sure how any of this could be done retroactively. I don't even think that would be legal. But it would at least provide a guidance for people moving forward. And I don't have a problem if we were to include the citizen committees, but that would be an amendment.
Mr. Bush?
Well, so I think it's a good ordinance. I don't think anybody that works for the town in any capacity should be held to different standards than the town, the employees of the town. And so I agree with it. And again, I agree with you, Eric, that I don't think we can go retroactively. I think this is a good policy in place to, effectively determine what happens in the future.
It establishes a standard.
A standard.
Yeah.
I have a problem.
Okay.
Disparaging remarks about the leadership, I think is First Amendment rights. If they want to criticize us for whatever, not personal, but what our opinions or votes or whatever, that's their right. Now, the image of the town, okay, that's a little, but they can say what they want about us and our leadership, I think. And I think if we try to curtail that, I think we're violating their First Amendment rights. That's just my opinion.
Well, we might have someone that knows more about the law here. So can I?
A person on his own.
I'm sorry, can you?
Can you talk into the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting this. We are advancing technologically. A person on his own time should be free to say or write anything he chooses. While a person is basically functioning as an employee or representative of the town, reasonable restrictions in regard to what a person is allowed to do or say should be permissible. You always, though, want to be very cautious in regard to restricting freedom of expression and freedom of thought. So I do think that if you want to pass something which basically says that while in a representative capacity, the person shall not disparage, so forth, I think that's okay. I do think, though, when you start talking about trying to stop freedom of expression on a person's own time, you're not able to do that.
Thanks. I certainly don't want to tell people if you want to serve on a citizen committee, you can't ever say, Eric's tie didn't match his shirt, or I didn't like the way he voted. That wouldn't be my intent. But if that's how someone is reading this, then certainly I would want some clarification language around that.
It would be nice if it would pass and nobody could ever criticize us.
No, it wouldn't.
But
honestly.
that's not, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
I think they can criticize us. They can not only vote us out, they can tell us when they disagree. Now, the image of the town, when we represent the town, we all try to do it the best way possible. I mean, look at it. Well, y'all are dressed, I'm semi-dressed. But I don't have a suit on. But I think we do our best to give a good image of the town. But if they want to criticize our votes or our opinions about the town or the ordinances, that's fine. I think we have to allow that.
Sure.
Not a disparaging remark, though. I mean, let's talk about what disparaging means.
Well, I don't want them to
I
say anything
understand.
personal, but
Right. There's a difference between a personal attack and somebody saying that I don't like your green shirt. It makes you look fat.
does it? Oh.
No, I'm just saying, that's the kind of,
I understand.
that's the difference between disparaging and personal attack. A personal attack should not be allowed by somebody that's on our committee.
I agree.
Okay?
But this says
And especially
leadership.
representing our town in a capacity where you're making policy and determining what businesses come into our town, what orchestra band plays at the orchestra. I don't want somebody over there on social media making disparaging remarks on any of the elected officials, any of the leadership of the town.
Yeah, so I believe there's a delineation, though, between, so anybody can make disparaging comments on
Right.
social media about this town and the council and the people that work for it. But I think when you become part of this town as a council member or as an employee or a volunteer or appointed to a committee or board, that you should be held to a little higher standard in the public. So, and it is what's reasonable is determined by the discretion of the town. Maybe we need more detail there, but I think ultimately, if somebody's out there just raging and saying really disparaging comments about the town, that we would really have to examine. I mean, they can still say those things. We're not going to.
They can say it all day long.
We're not going to
Right.
restrict their First Amendment right, but we are going to restrict their ability to represent the town.
Right.
And that's where I think there's like a delineation between freedom of speech and, so I know if you work for a company, I don't think you can go out on social media and condemn the company you work for without some sort of consequence.
Yeah.
And this is similar, so that's where I'm coming
I
from.
understand. Image, I'm with you.
Right?
But leadership is us.
I would encourage you to come back if this passes and provide an amendment.
Okay.
Maybe a little more
And
specific.
to that order, I move to amend this motion by adding citizen committees between the words Zoning Board of Appeals and Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, Mr. Sickinger made a motion, Mr. Bush seconded. All in favor of the amendment to add Citizens Committee, raise your right hand. All opposed, it's unanimous. Okay. Any more discussion? Ready to vote on the resolution as it's written right now, and if we want to come back and add something, we can. All in favor of the resolution as it's written right now, raise your right hand. All opposed? Did you raise your right hand?
I did.
Okay, all opposed?
Just-
3-1. Mrs. Condon voted against it. Thank you very much. Last but not least on our agenda, and we're doing great on the time factor, Mrs. Condon. Approval to purchase 3 trucks, 3 fleet pickup trucks from Love Chevrolet, an amount of $118,000. Is there a motion for approval?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Ms. Condon made a motion, Mr. Bush seconded, and we have quite a few quick questions to ask. And Ms. Condon, if you...
Well, first of all, I understand the questions. After you're up here a while, you know that we buy 3 or 4 vehicles a year for the police department, and it depends on mileage of the other cars. In this case, didn't we have problems getting police cars?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk into the
Mayor,
microphone?
council, I'm going to let the captain, this is his baby, so I'm going to let him talk about it, and he can explain everything. He's already explained everything to me, but he's done a great job, and he can explain everything to y'all.
Okay.
Thank you, council.
Talking to that mic, I'm sorry.
Should we make him stand at the podium? Can we,
Yeah, there you go. Stand up at the
point of order,
podium.
can he stand
So
at the
can you hear me now?
podium?
Yeah.
Thank you, Captain. I appreciate you standing up so we can make sure we hear you clearly for the people at home.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, council. Just to give you a little overview about our fleet consists of about 31 patrol vehicles issued to our police officers. And Mr. Brown can correct me if I'm wrong, but years ago, council had decided in, I believe, a resolution to keep our vehicles outfitted and up to date, trying to replace them every 5 to 7 years and every 100,000 miles. So like Councilwoman Condon had mentioned, once they reach a certain mileage, we try to get rid of them. And we're typically buying, with 31 vehicles in the fleet, you need to replace around 4 to 6 every year to keep our fleet in rotation. So this year, in our current budget, we've already purchased some vehicles. This appropriation is to help us move forward in 2020. So with this appropriation of buying 3 vehicles now, we won't be asking for the typical 4 come next budget. One of the reasons for doing it now is there's a little shortage of police vehicles, believe it or not. If you look at the state contract in the state, the only thing that's on there is Dodge Chargers, which the order cutoff was in November, and they're saying that they may not be able to order again until fourth quarter of 2020. The Tahoe's not even on the contract right now. The Durango is on it. Same ordering issues as the Chargers. Also, it has cloth. It only comes in cloth. That doesn't work with bad guys. The other vehicle on the contract is the Ford F-150 pickup truck, police responder, and it's $33,000. So the trucks that we're looking at purchasing from Love Chevrolet, it's the last 3 that they literally have on the lot, this style, and we're getting them around $30,000. That appropriation of $118,000 includes the full outfitting. So it's not just for the vehicles, but it's for the lights, the cages, the sirens, all the equipment that goes in there. There's about $10,000 extra dollars that are dumped into a police car to outfit it completely. So that's what the appropriation is for. What we would be getting rid of is a couple of our Crown Vics, 2009 Crown Vic, so it's 11 years old. It's actually got a broken transmission, and we've already spent in its life about $8,300 in service and repair for 11 years. So do we dump another $2,000 in it and put a tranny in it, or do we look at getting it out of the fleet? Also, we have 2 other Crown Vics, a 2011. Both of them are 2011s, so they're 9 years old. Again, they're over 95,000 to 105,000 miles on them. So that's what we'd be replacing. And again, with this appropriation now, it allows us to pick up what's in stock and can get to today. Just to give you an example, in this current budget that we're in, we were appropriated for 2 Dodge Chargers. I ordered them in July, and I literally picked one up today. So that tells you how long it takes to build one out, especially when they're building them from the factory. So we didn't pick those up from the factory until late December. These trucks are on the lot, so it helps speed up the process as well. I think we'll have an issue in next budget getting 1 or 2 police cars because it's just going to take so long for them to get them. So that's why we're asking for the appropriation now.
So if this doesn't pass, what happens?
So those trucks won't be available. We will wait until the next budget and look at what's on the contract. Like I spoke about earlier, there is nothing on the contract right now that if you gave me an appropriation, I could even pick up today.
Thank you.
So
I understand.
You got any questions?
No questions.
I got a couple of comments, and this is we've answered the why now because of availability, and I hope that answers your questions out there as the reason why we're doing this now and not waiting until the next fiscal year, which is in July, or for us. And this is part of the regular budget item of replacing cars. Except we're not going to replace it with a car, we're going to replace it with a truck that has 4 doors, so it is essentially a car on a truck body, and we can accommodate 2 things with that. We're gonna get that bigger mileage, we're gonna get that more room for the officers, especially some of the smaller officers we have. And then we're gonna also, we're also gonna have the ability to use it as a 4x4 truck in case we have to go over some rough terrain or some snow situations that may come up. I think it's a good deal. My only thing is, have we looked at any grants that we could possibly use to purchase these trucks? Not for this year, but for next year.
Yes, sir. There are some grants out there that could help procure vehicles and other police equipment. One of the ones that I've been looking at recently is a JAG grant, which stands for Justice Assistance Grant. I went to a meeting in January and got some information on it. I've actually started writing a grant, but it's for police radios. The grants for this particular funding is federal dollars. It's a 90-10 kind of match, and we can talk more about that maybe at the next meeting once the grant is fully prepared. But it helps it does help procure equipment for police. I'd like to use the availability of that grant for radios. That's another issue that we've run into where we're going to need some funding. But if you want to pursue that in the future, that could be a possibility, the JAG grant.
Okay. So you see what I'm getting the police department to do, to think outside the box. Don't just look at it being a budget item, just slap it in the budget, we need it, to be a little more creative and go out and look for opportunities to get federal dollars that may be available that we haven't gone after before in the past. I think it's a great idea. And with that, is there any other comments?
I just have one question. From a price comparison with, for example, the Dodge Chargers, which we can't get, what's the differential? Is it?
So to give you an idea about the different comparisons, so the Dodge Charger, it's on state contract for $22,000, but that is the base. You have to put in all the add-ins like the spotlight. Like with us, we're buying the V8s because they're a little bit more reliable than the V6s. So we were spending about $28,000 to $28,500 on the Chargers. The Durango that we had purchased was closer to $30,000. The trucks that we're purchasing are Chevy 1500s. We actually brought one up from the dealer today. They list out at $43,000. They're honoring the state contract pricing at $30,000.
Okay.
These vehicles will not be in our patrol fleet. They'll be in our community services fleet, so they won't be as utilized like the patrol vehicles are. It'll give us a little bit more relaxed approach when we're dealing with community services events and code enforcement. And like you guys mentioned, it adds some more versatility to our fleet so we can haul things and have all weather driving available to us.
Excellent.
I think it's good.
Okay.
Sounds well thought out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Any more questions? No. All in favor of approving the purchase of 3 trucks at the price of $118,378? All raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. This is a part of the meeting where we actually listen to you, the citizens, that you may have some comments on the things you've heard tonight, and you want us to hear more comments about them, or you want to bring to our attention things that, we don't know about. There's no sign-up sheet for it, so if you have some comments and you live in the town limits, please come forward. Seeing none? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. I am Christopher Javis, 120 Elliott Richardson Road, as well as 7130 Broad River Road. I'm here tonight to, first and foremost, let you know who I am. I'm a business owner. I own Kings and Queens Barber and Beauty, which is in Sand Hills. And then my wife and I, we own Javis Financial Services. But tonight I'm here as the founder and president of the African American alumni of Irmo High School. On the 29th of this month, we'll be hosting our first annual fish fry here in the park. The community group that we're putting together is to continue to do what Irmo has always done, improve the community. as African American here, we have a great deal of history. And what we'll be doing is developing young people that are already in the community and working with young people in the community, taking them to the next level, rewarding people who have been in this community as African American that have developed people like myself. Those being yourself, Mayor Walker, as well as Miss Vernetta Davis Riley. I don't know if you know her, but she was a guidance counselor at Irmo High School. Without her, young men like myself wouldn't have went on to do what I'm doing today. I would not have known the classes that I needed and the education that I had to have to go into college and things of that nature. As well as Mr. Frank Leapart, if you know of him. He was the first African-American police officer here in the town of Irmo. And along with those three people I mentioned, yourself included, we look to award those people, give them their flowers while they're here, alive and with us. This organization looks to do a great deal here in the Irmo community. We want to invite the mayor, if he can, be present that day to talk to the constituents that are here that will be there. We invite each and every one of you to come out. This is just the first event that we'll be hosting, but there will be more, a great deal more. We've already got 150 people registered to participate at this event. It's something that's needed. We've been working on it now for several years, and we've got about 9 committee members, and we look to take it further. And we ask that you guys give us some form of, support. Come out if you can, and especially you, Mayor. There's a lot of people that have asked that you be there, and if you can, it'll be appreciated. It's from 11 to 4 on documentation, but 11 to 3. We'll be shutting down so we can get everything cleaned up and touched up.
Catfish?
We'll have catfish and whiting.
Okay.
And what was the date again?
The 29th.
29th.
Mr. Javis, that lady over there to your right, sitting down, smiling at you,
The queen.
this first lady, yeah. she had me committed to go to Virginia on the 29th.
Oh, okay, understandable.
But if you can convince her not to go, or I can stay, I'll be more than happy to attend that.
Well, if I could, I would, but I have a first lady too. I'm not getting in that.
But thank you very much, and if you need anything from the town support-wise, let us know.
Well, we'll definitely make sure that a few of the committee members, as well as myself, make arrangements to be here to give you your award.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Next.
Hello. Are business owners and non-residents still allowed to talk at the end? Yeah?
Sure.
Okay, just making sure. I came to talk about hot dogs for a cause. A lot of you guys may not know what actually happened and who it's for. It's for Jada Powell, who's the events queen of Irmo. She does the egg hunt, trunk or treat, holiday in the park. She does a lot that isn't advertised as well. Her daughter was driving home on the 12th. Driving from home back to Lander, hit a pothole, lost control of the car, and flipped 5 times. Luckily, she's physically, for the most part, okay, but she does have a bruised tailbone, she has bruised lungs, and she's in a lot of pain. But they only had liability insurance, so the car is not covered. Ironically, when you're in an accident by yourself, nothing's covered, basically. Some of her hospital bill is, but we're collecting money to help them with the part that's not covered and replacing her car, and just to show Jada how much we all appreciate her. She's been here for probably almost everyone in the room. She's supported everything in the town, and I hope that each and every one of you will come out and show your support for her as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She said it better than I said it, I think. Thank you, Brandy.
Any others?
I'm Greg Edmonds, 414 Zanark Drive. I am on one of the committees that you are addressing in new business B. I wanted to bring to your attention, I was by profession a public information officer when I retired, and I'm doing that kind of work with the Irmo committee now for the Irmo Outreach Committee. I'm doing the website and so forth for them. Just wanted to bring to your attention, because this was in my bailiwick when I was doing this, the National Labor Relations Act. Can you not hear me? Bring it up. Okay, is that better? Thank you. In sections 7 and 8, I'm sorry, of the the NLRB, National section of the National Labor Relations Board and National Labor Relations Act, does give an employer the right to restrict what an employee can say as a representative of that employer. So if you, it's not necessarily someone, the concern is not here, as I see it, necessarily someone, if I don't like something the mayor does, I don't like something you do, it is certainly within my right and my prerogative to say something about that on social media. However, if I'm serving on this committee, if someone is actually employed by the town, if you are engaged in any kind of activity online that is making something that is outside of normal decorum, if it's something that, and frequently, and this is an issue that I've addressed with social media many times with people over the years, many of us old enough to remember before there was an internet, if you said something about somebody, if you thought something disparaging about somebody, well, that's just what you thought. Now you have the freedom to say something about somebody on the other side of the world, and they're not in your face to respond to you, which makes that an uneven playing field. But I just wanted to address that for Ms. Condon's comment. You can restrict what someone says who is representing the organization, municipality in this instance. You can restrict what they say having to do with whether or not it's offensive to another party. And what is offensive, that's a question, of something, but for another time perhaps. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention so that you can do that, and it's not necessarily restricting a First Amendment right in so doing.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Edmonds.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments from any citizen about anything they would like for the council to know? Seeing none, is there a discussion? There is no discussion tonight on anything? You sure?
I think so.
All right, I have an executive session for some legal advice. We're not going to take any votes, so I have a motion to go in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bush, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Sickler made a motion, Mr. Bush seconded. We will go into executive session for legal advice. We are back from executive session. We didn't take any votes.
Point of order, Mr. Secretary.
Point of
Councilman
order.
Secretary, please take your seat.
Okay, now we're back from executive session. We didn't take any votes. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I make that motion.
I second.
Mr. Bush made that motion. Mr. Sickinger seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now officially adjourned. Thank you.
You know what?